Welcome to the Sports Lab Overtime. I'm Justin Baxley, joined by Jordan Liu. Jordan is one of our superstars from the INC here at the University of Florida. Jordan, tell us a little bit about yourself. Thanks for coming on. We're excited to have you here.
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan. I am a grad student here at the CJC. I'm getting my master's in mass communications with a concentration in PR. So I'm actually graduating very soon. So I'm very excited to come on and talk about Gator sports with you, Justin. So yeah.
Very excited to have you here. Senior year, or grad student, but last year of college, that's got to be nerve-wracking.
Very.
But it's good that you get to experience some of the great things that are going on here at the University of Florida.
Yes.
Got to experience a national championship last year.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're going to take it first. We've talked a lot of football recently, and me and AJ talked a Ryder Cup yesterday. But today we really wanted to delve into what the basketball team might be looking like, and hit on some other big basketball headlines ahead of the season. We got some stuff this week from the basketball team. We're starting to get ramped up. Look, the football season has been a little disappointing, to say the least. But Todd Golden and those guys, they can save us and bring us some joy very, very soon. Jordan, what are your thoughts so far on, a potential for a repeat for our national champions Gators? Will they, in fact, stay hot?
I do hope the Gator boys still stay hot, but I think there's so much pressure now for Todd Golden and this team just because football isn't doing what we expected. So now I think everyone is pivoting and looking forward to basketball, and because of that, we're all really expecting another run. And being a student here while we won the national championship, that is one of the highlight of my life. So now that I'm used to winning, I want to win more. So I think next season's gonna be definitely a challenge with Walt, Will, Elijah gone. Those three senior leaders, I feel like we counted on so much throughout last season in times of adversity and everything. So now it's kind of how can we move past and have a different game plan with Xavier Lee and Boogie Flan. So I am very excited to see how this team goes, but I think we have the talent, we have the coaching, trust the analytics. I think this team can make a very deep run when it comes to March again next year. And whether or not we make it to Indianapolis, I hope, but I think it's still too early to see. I think we'll definitely know more about this team and the chemistry once we tip off against Arizona. So I'm very excited to see the new team and how that comes about. But I know that the basketball team, they did a open practice during the USF game, so right before. So we got to see kind of how everyone is gluing together, and it looked really good. And I know in practice, Xavier and Boogie look like they've transitioned well, but it's kind of different when you're playing against SEC competition or Duke and UConn on the court. So we'll see. But what about you?
Yeah, so I think you hit on a lot there. I got to watch the team from afar last year. I didn't really have a stake in the game, so to speak. But the NCAA tournament is one of my favorite sporting events to watch every year. I went to Mercer University in Macon. We were in the NCAA tournament my freshman year, and I got to experience them beat Duke in the first round, which, let me tell you, as an underdog, I think we were 13 seed, it was an incredible experience.
Yeah, I could imagine for sure.
But completely different from what the Gators experienced last year, in that each and every game you expect to go in there, especially in the tournament, you expect to go in there and win. And they did just that. They went and won a national championship. Todd Golden took those guys, and they lost some serious talent. You hit on the three major ones. Walter Clayton Jr., I just remember watching him and going, why does he keep running backwards and then heaving up these things? But more importantly, why do they keep going in?
Mm-hmm.
And it was every time Florida needed a basket, he could just take the ball, run out to the three-point line, hoist it up, and it went in.
Right.
That's hard to replace the type of player that Walter Clayton Jr., more so on the court for leadership and what it meant. You knew you could go to him. That's the big key. When the chips are down, when it doesn't look like you can come back and win this game, Walter Clayton Jr. found a way to do it. Looking at the starting roster this year, or potential starting roster, you hit on a couple players that are going to be key transfers or key pieces in this particular unit. Xavier Lee, senior, was a role player on the Princeton Sweet 16 squad back in 2023. So you're glad to know that he's got that experience, knows that he can what he can do in the tournament. Also been a two-time Ivy League performer, and after he ran the show there for Princeton for a little bit. Now he's going to probably handle some of the ball handling duties, maybe along with Boogie. I think we had talked a little bit about that the other day. You and I, we were just talking basketball together. I'm excited to see how those two fit together and how they decide to share those ball handling duties, because I think that's going to be an interesting thing. Obviously, Boogie Flan, sophomore, former 5-star prospect, who maybe could have gone to the NBA last year, but he had the thumb injury, had to have midseason surgery, but he averaged 5.1 assists per game. He was a 36% shooter from three-point range before the injury. And he was over at Arkansas with Coach Cal in his first season with Arkansas. So it'll be interesting to see how those two kind of take on new roles in this offense and what that looks like in terms of ball handling.
Yeah, for sure. I think Boogie, he had such a great season as a freshman. McDonald's All-American, he was highly coveted as a recruit, and you can tell that he made a big impact, from starting the beginning of the season at Arkansas. But now I think the question is, can he stay healthy throughout this whole entire season that we have, 40 games, hopefully. And it's going to be very interesting to see him in a more prominent role. And I know that he wanted to come back to college to develop more and get, kind of hone his skills more for an extra year in college. So we'll see. But I think the prime ball handler, we have no idea. And I think that's going to be something where it will start figuring itself out, I think, as we go through the non-conference and start SEC play. But, I think guards win in March. So that's the big thing. And the backcourt is just how are you going to replace 3 NBA talent on your roster now that we're moving forward? And with Xavier Lee, he's so talented. He's great at getting to the rim. He is a great assister, but it's is that going to translate to the SEC where there's going to be bigger, better competition? This is not the Ivy League. But, I know Todd Golden and that staff, they really trust the analytics and going into it. So I think because of that and hearing, the information coming out of practice, it sounds like, him and Thomas Houck, they have played together in high school. I think that is a huge thing for this team because they already have some built-in chemistry there. And now with Tommy playing in the 3, playing in the wing, it's kind of, we'll see a whole new dynamic and whole new chemistry. And, I think you made a great point about Walter Clayton Jr. because he did have to come up in those clutch moments down in March Madness. I still cannot believe that we came back from the Texas Tech game. I still remember there being 2 minutes left, and I thought, this is it. We had a great run. We were so close to getting to a Final Four, but then Walter Clayton Jr., in any moment of doubt, he's going to shine. And I think with this team, hopefully it's going to be more balanced. So, we will never be put into that situation when we have to rely on one player to make those clutch 3 shots from, the logo to, or run and then – turn around, do a spin move. And I think this team has the potential to be more balanced, and also with the front court coming back, which is arguably the best front court in the nation. Thomas Houck, we have Alex Condon, Ruben Chenyolu, and Micah Hanlockton. I think that is I trust them because they have experience, they're veterans, and they could kind of lead this team into another run. So yeah, there's so much potential, but yeah,
there's a ton of potential. Obviously we've got Steve Russell coming up in a little bit with Sports Scene. You'll also get to see the Sports Live with Kevin Winter, as well as 2 of the wonderful folks over in the INC taking over for that second hour. And then the tailgate will take you home on this Friday. But Jordan, a couple days ago, Jesse Brotman over at WRUF put out a story that Boogie is the planned starter at point guard, according to Todd Golden from Monday, and that Xavier will take on a little bit more of an off-ball role. It's an interesting thing because he wants the guards to guide the offense. He mentioned Flam will probably run the point coming out of dead balls, but obviously if there's a miss, they don't really care who takes it up the court, which is great. When you've got two elite ball handlers that can facilitate and assist, it's good to have that because, one, Boogie's injury history, if something were to happen, you're not down completely without a ball handler. I'm an Atlanta Hawks fan. If Trae Young goes down, where do you find the facilitator on the roster? It was tough for a little bit there. They traded DeJounte Murray, and we saw last year that Dyson Daniels had to be ready to do that. And so it's one of those things when you don't have a natural fit to be able to take over those ball handling duties, it can be tough. But what's good is here it feels like, one, whoever grabs the rebound, that means they can press quickly and get up the court. So I would expect to see more transition, more fast break baskets potentially from this offense when you've got two guys that can facilitate, have good court vision, and run the court. Golden seems to be really excited about that potential as well. And like you said, you got to trust the staff that they know what they're doing. And so when he tells you that he feels really good about that, you have to feel really good about that as well. You also mentioned some of the folks that will be kind of the leaders, the Alex Condons of the world, of the Florida basketball world. Look, he flirted very heavily leaving for the NBA draft. But he comes back. I think the big thing is he's got such a good combination of being able – he's got the size, but he also has the mobility. And you've got to be able to do both in today's college basketball. You've got to be able to get out to the three-point line and defend it, but you also have to be willing to go down low. And that's something Alex Condon at 6'11", 230, he's absolutely able to do that. I am interested to see how Thomas, who was kind of like you call it like a super sub last year, right? Like he was their
America's
best
sixth man.
Yeah, like he was a super great sixth man. I'm interested to see how he slots in as a starter, alongside Condon, Boogie, Chinyelu, and Xavier. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. He's obviously a great rebounder, really good defender. He also thrives by getting to the rim, and I think that's to me is going to be great. I also am excited to see kind of what he can do from the three-point line.
Oh, yeah.
When you've got a big like Condon who can shoot the three, Thomas can shoot the three, Boogie can shoot the three, I mean, are we going to see more of that this year where it's a consistent effort all around, kind of a 4-out, 5-out type offense, especially when you think about them potentially running up and down the court a little bit faster because both guys can obviously handle the ball. I mean, this could be a really high-powered offensive machine coming to the University of Florida this year.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned about the threes, it's like we're going to have to replace Walt's production on that. And it's like who is going to be the most reliable. And I think for Thomas Houck, he's, definitely. Like he can do anything. Like he's basically super versatile player. And I think he's probably worked on getting his release to be a little bit quicker on the three. And I think that would make such a big difference. And I think for him, he's kind of stepping into so many different roles. Like not only is he going to be in the front court, but then he's also going to be doing like Will Richard duties out in the wing. So it's going to be a lot on Thomas Houck, but I am very high on Thomas Houck. I think he is honestly potential SEC player of the year, potential national player of the year. Like I think Tommy had a great March Madness, and you could tell that in those moments where, we're down and we need somebody to come up with a big, momentum, go on a run, like Tommy is your guy with those and ones and with those threes, clutch threes. Like I think he'll be great. And and we'll see. We'll definitely see. There's going to be a lot of production that is missed because of Walt, but I think that's also where the bench comes in, because last year one of the biggest reasons why we made it that far and we were national champions was because of how deep our bench is. This year obviously we have Denzel gone, which was a very, very big miss, but Urban Clavsar, like, is he going to take that jump from last year, because he's very hot and cold. So like at the Auburn game when we were at Neville, he drained 3 crucial threes to like extend our lead, but it's like, is he going to have that consistency going into this year, and can he make a bigger impact on the court when we need him. And also, I think with AJ Brown coming in, which is Isaiah Brown's brother, like I think he also has a lot of potential coming from Ohio. And then with the freshmen, I'm also super excited with the freshman. Alex Lloyd, I've heard a lot of great things about him at practice, and I think he's going to be a freshman to watch definitely during non-con. So we'll definitely see little bits of him and CJ Ingram, I think, throughout the non-conference, but it's going to be a very different team. But I think with Todd, like that's also a good challenge of like, okay, how am I going to move on from obviously this fairy tale year of 2025. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, you mentioned Alex Lloyd. Golden specifically said, again, check out Jesse Brotman's work over on WRUF.com. He mentioned that Alex Lloyd has been a bright spot for us. Not exactly sure what his role is going to be, but he's given us the confidence that he can help us a little bit this year. And he goes on to mention that you know, last season, having depth was super important. That was something that, you know, Todd Golden relied on to be able to go back and forth, bring in some guys, get hot. And then you mentioned the Brown brothers. That's going to be interesting to see. Something for A.J. Brown, who is the older brother of Isaiah. You know, he's a three-point shooter too. Again, that, you know, having somebody that can come off the bench, hit some key threes, potentially provide some sparks, you know, off the bench in some big conference games. But as you mentioned, that non-conference schedule, it's going to be important to see what they can do to get those players up to speed. Because once again, the SEC is going to be a gauntlet. It's never easy. But the last few years, we've seen the SEC, especially last year. The SEC was one of the best conferences, the best conference, top to bottom. You saw that not only throughout the season, but you saw it in the tournament, the Final Four. I mean, there was a point in that tournament where people were talking about, could this be an all SEC Final Four? That was genuinely on the table because of how good those teams were. Jordan, we're looking at the schedule. You know, they'll start off the Hall of Fame series with Arizona. Then they'll play North Florida, Florida State, Miami. So we'll get some in-state action going on. This all kicks off early November 3rd, I believe, is the Arizona game, and then we'll have the 6th and the 11th for that North Florida and Florida State. And then we'll get Merrimack. Nice. Hopefully that's another easy game to get started, and then they'll go into the Children's Invitational, which I believe they'll start with TCU, and then they'll play either Providence or Wisconsin. Then they'll have the SEC ACC Challenge, which that's that Duke game on December 2nd. Those tickets, by the way,
last time I saw it was like $1,400 on resale.
Yeah, and I just like, well, I won't be making that trip in particular. I got to see Duke play once. That was enough. Got to see them lose. I'd like to see some more of that, especially this year. Then they have the Jimmy V Classic against UConn on December 9th up in New York, followed by the Orange Bowl Classic with George Washington. And then, yeah, it looks like was that St. Francis, Colgate, Dartmouth, and then we get to SEC play. That kicks off January 3rd on the road at Missouri before coming back home for the opener against the Georgia Bulldogs and former coach Mike White, and then Tennessee shortly after that. Look, the schedule will once again be tough, but how are you feeling, you know, coming into last year? You're obviously here, you're getting to experience what this basketball team's capable of, but you know, at some point there wasn't necessarily that you guys felt like maybe as the favorite all season, right? There were points where you didn't know if you were going to win the SEC. Yeah. There were points where, you know, because the SEC was so tough. I mean, Auburn was really good last year. We'll get into some of the news out of Auburn later, but Auburn's really good. You had some of that. So there wasn't necessarily the big target on your back. This year you're the defending national champion. Not only that, but I think the expectation, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I think the expectation from Gator Nation is that they're going to go back to back.
Yeah. I think I think this year's schedule is kind of flipped from last year's schedule, because last year it was kind of like we were not tested at all during non-conference. It was the hardest game I think during the non-conference was North Carolina at UNC at the Jumpman Invitational, and that was when we got to learn more about the team, and that I think is when we saw how resilient they were. So going into SEC play last year, there were so many question marks about this team of like, how do they hold up against, a Tennessee, like a Bama, a Auburn? But then now it's kind of flipped because in non-conference, like Todd Golden has scheduled a very hard non-conference this year, and I think that is the perfect formula because if you look at our SEC conference schedule, it is very favored towards us because we have Bama at home, we have Arkansas at home, we have Auburn at home, and we have a split series between Kentucky, and then I think we also have Tennessee at home. So the SEC gave us a very great home court advantage schedule because last year we had to go to Auburn, we had to go to Tennessee, we had to go to all of these places. So I think you can really learn a lot about this team because last year, because of that experience, we got to face adversity early before March. And I think that was a big reason as to why we climbed back from so many deficits, and that's why we built so much character and so much chemistry. We learned so much about how the boys actually trust each other during those situations. But now it's kind of like, okay, when we go to SEC, like we're probably going to be favored in every single game, especially at home. So it's like, how can we stack ourselves up to potential natty contenders like Duke and UConn, but we're playing them in the non-conference. So I think this is a great way to really test the waters and to see and make adjustments before SEC starts so we can like face some road games and to go into hostile environments like Cameron Indoor. So I think that's going to show a lot. And like with Duke too, like they have a whole new starting five now. So it's going to be a lot of question marks, but I think the schedule, you can see that Todd is like wanting to put them into those situations where they're going to be hit with like decision making and like, oh, like how can we climb back from a certain deficit?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at the odds. I mean, look, the top 5 or 6 teams, I would say Purdue, Houston, Duke, UConn, Florida, Michigan. Arkansas is going to be really good again this year, I'm sure.
Yeah. They have I think they have like all of theirs, almost everyone returning. So, and they're a Sweet 16 team, so they're veterans now. So yeah.
You've got Kentucky, Tennessee and Alabama also. You can't count them out. The one that slipped a little bit is Auburn.
Yes.
Some of that could be there was some big news this week. After 11 seasons, legend in the game, Bruce Pearl, has decided to take a step back and retire from college basketball. And now Stephen Pearl will now take over there. It's going to be interesting to see one of the I would say Florida's arch nemesis, so to speak, last year on the basketball court. There was a lot of games with Florida last year in Auburn. I'm interested to see how much impact that has on the SEC race. I would say that most years when you've got Bruce Pearl coaching at Auburn, you have to expect that they're going to be a really good basketball team. I don't know that it's going to change that much. I think that they'll still be a really good basketball team. But it'll be interesting to see how things shake out with Bruce Pearl over there or Bruce Pearl not on the sideline anymore. So last year, looking at the Auburn and Florida, obviously the big one, the 79-73 victory in the Final Four. They didn't play them in the SEC tournament, but they did grab them on the road back in February, 90-81, offensive shootout. So Florida kind of gets Bruce Pearl's number right before his retirement, so that has to feel pretty good if you're a Florida fan. But on that note, how do you think Bruce Pearl's retirement what impact that may have on the SEC? And Florida obviously can't overlook Auburn, but maybe that provides a little bit of an easier matchup this season.
Yeah, I think the news came in shock to everyone. I don't think anyone was expecting Bruce Pearl to retire. I think if anything, it was maybe going to be next year after the season ended. But I think this is going to shake up a lot of things, just because Bruce Pearl, he has brought Auburn to 2 Final Fours when he's been there, and obviously they had the best team on paper last year, and really we didn't know. I honestly didn't feel like we were contenders last year until we beat them at Neville, which was, beating them at the Jungle. That showed so much about us. But Bruce Pearl, he has built that program up to be a contender every single year, and that is not an easy thing to do. And I think for him, like, now kind of giving the reins to Stephen Pearl, I think it's a good decision, just because Stephen Pearl has been around the program, and like he has moved up the ranks in Auburn, so like nobody really knows the program more than Stephen Pearl. So like, who would you trust more in that role? And also I think the players have been around him, so they're comfortable. I don't think we'll see the impact of this vacancy, like this kind of transition, until maybe like once he starts recruiting. We'll see how that impacts the Auburn's recruiting. And I think this year, like, I think the players are brought in. I mean, they have like 30 days to enter the transfer portal, I think. But I don't think any names have gone in there. And now they're kind of relying on Todd Pettiford to lead them. And Todd is still young. He's only a sophomore. He forgoed the NBA draft to come back, and they're missing so many bright stars. Like, they're missing Janai Broom, Chad Baker, Denver Jones, who like brought them to that Final Four run. And like now is kind of, okay, what can Steven do to keep Auburn at the same level? And I think now with the SEC, like the top 3 contenders, in my opinion, is going to be Florida, Kentucky, and Arkansas, just with the amount of players they have back. Kentucky, they have Denzel, they have Otega Owe. Like Arkansas, they Coach Cal, proven coach as well, with a seasoned Sweet 16 team coming back. So Auburn, we'll see. This will be an interesting season for them, and I think it'll be fun to watch. But now is kind of like, with Bruce Pearl gone, can Stephen Pearl keep up that, like, can he be one of the main coaches, the biggest coaches in the SEC, with Nate Oates at Bama, with Todd Golden, who just won a championship, and Rick Barnes at Tennessee, so Coach Cal at Arkansas. So it's kind of like he has big shoes to fill, but I think it'll just make it more fun, and you can tell that he's very fired up. Like, I remember watching the Auburn replay and like the Auburn highlights from the Final Four game. He's over there on the sideline just like crashing out. And I thought it was so funny because you could tell there's so much passion about it. So he cares about the program, and him and Bruce Pearl, they built something great together. And with Todd Golden too, like they are long-term like family friends. They've worked together, and it's gonna be fun to see, I think, Stephen Pearl and Todd Golden's potential rivalry in the future. I mean, they're very close in age. I think Stephen Pearl is the youngest coach in the SEC now, so it's going to be really fun, and I think there's going to be some friendly beef there, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'm guessing we'll still see Bruce quite often.
Oh, yeah.
At those Auburn games. I think, from that standpoint, he's got to be super proud of the opportunity to hand the reins over to his son. He says nobody's more qualified or in a position to maintain our culture and faith, family, and doing it the Auburn way than Stephen. He's actually tougher than I am and just as competitive. Out of loyalty to Auburn and me, Stephen passed on several previous opportunities to pursue head coaching, choosing instead to invest in our program and help it reach unprecedented heights. We would not have been in the position to make 2 Final Fours, win 5 SEC championships, and win as many games if we hadn't had Stephen and the staff. I'm pleased that the DNA of this program won't be, changed from what they had with Bruce Pearl. And so, I mean, I said we could not be prouder for Stephen, Brittany, and Laney. I'm excited for him. I mean, just as a an outsider kind of looking in, this has got to be a heck of a moment for Bruce. Mm-hmm. To be, like I said, to be able to hand it off. It'll be interesting to see what they are able to do this season. I expect that Todd Golden, Stephen Pearl rivalry to grow, and it should be, I think when you have good rivals in any sport and both teams are competitive, it makes those games more fun.
Yeah.
I've always found that you know, when you're beating up on your rival all the time, yeah, it's fun. Don't get me wrong, but I think there is something to it when you go into the arena, and you have that expectation of a fan that we're about to go into a battle where us screaming when they're up there taking their free throws, it matters to us. If we don't get loud enough, you know, Johnny might make 2 free throws, and then now Auburn's up by 2 with a minute to play. We need Walter to go down and hit a big 3. I feel like it adds a little bit of pressure, adds a little bit of excitement for the fan base. And so I do hope that he's able to continue the success there, hopefully not be too successful compared to our Gators here in Gainesville. Speaking of rivalries, we've got some we'll transition over to some football talk now. Jordan, you know, we've got some
we had a good slate this weekend. We do.
Really good slate.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you take it and walk us through a couple of those games.
Okay. I would say I have 3. There's 3 huge games I feel like we need to talk about, and I think the first one's Oregon versus Penn State, which is huge game this weekend, and we'll see. I mean, Penn State, they're coming off of a bye week, and it's going to be a night whiteout game. So this is going to be a crazy atmosphere. And Oregon, I mean, they have a young squad, and they're trying to prove something on the road. And I think it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful game. And Dante Moore, he's a young quarterback, too, has not faced this type of environment, like, in the past. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, again, they've been cakewalking, I think, like, their past 3 games so far, and like their starters aren't even playing by like the 4th quarter. So this will be really critical, I think, in showing how capable both teams are. And with Penn State, I mean, this is like a game they have to win. I think this is like a must win for them. I think Drew Aller, he, you know, big expectations. He's a veteran. He's been there for a while, and he hasn't really played up to the standards I think a lot of people expected him to. And obviously with James Franklin, we know like his record of not being great in big time games. However, this is at home. This is a whiteout. So everything is working in Penn State's favor to win. But we'll see. I think Dan Lanning, he's going to bring something. And it's going to be a really, really fun game. So what do you think?
Yeah, Jordan, you mentioned that James Franklin, the big stat that everybody talks about, 4-20 versus top 10 opponents.
Yeah.
I think he exercises some demons this weekend. I think Penn State wins this football game.
Really?
I do.
I picked Oregon.
Wow. We're already disagreeing, Jordan.
Wow.
That's okay. We'll gear some of why you're going with Oregon. For me, Penn State at home.
Yeah.
Mo Bamba's going to be playing.
Yeah.
You got the whiteout going on. It's a raucous crowd. This is a put up or shut up type game for Penn State. We're going to either find out that they are national championship contenders, or, not to be too cliche, we're going to find out whether they're a pretender. And so I think that this game means so much for Penn State for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I think you've got to go out and win this football game. Couple of the big things, the matchups I'll be watching. One, that rushing attack for Penn State's really good. You mentioned Drew Aller. I do think that he's going to have to make some plays. So far this season, he's 2 for 9 on passes of 20 yards or more down the field. That's not great. We don't love that as somebody picking Penn State. But I think that being at home, Oregon hasn't really faced anybody of note yet. They beat Oklahoma State really bad, but Oklahoma State just had to fire their coach. So, like, where does that win actually rank?
Right.
I think really looking down the list of things, I think if the defense can get to Dante Moore, which I think their pressure is going to be there. Oregon's run defense is not phenomenal. It's top 50, and they haven't played anybody. So that's another thing to look at. And so then if Penn State can use that rushing attack to set up some pass plays, a lot of the Penn State fans will tell you the reason Drew Aller is 2 for 9 in passes of 20 yards down the field is because they're not wanting to put anything on tape because of this game. They haven't really been trying to pass down the field. They haven't really been They've been very vanilla on offense. Now you're going to see some sprinkles. Now they're going to start adding some toppings to this offense.
That is true, but I think that's also what you can say about Oregon too, because they haven't really, like, the starters, they were all good, but not really. So I think Oregon's like playbook also hasn't been like, opened. So we really don't know how good Oregon is either. So I think, week 4, week 5, like, it's still early. We really don't know. And I think that's how this game is just so interesting, because I totally get where you're coming from. Like, everything is kind of pointing to Penn State to win because they're rested. They had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. And this is also a rematch of the Big Ten championship from last year where Oregon did win. So it was really close last year. And I think literally Penn State, they're hyped. I can only imagine they've been building this game up for 2 weeks now, and like their players are hyped. They know that if they lose this game, like morale going into Columbus later on is going to be very low. Like, you kind of have to win this whiteout game at home. But I think the only reason why I picked Oregon is just because of like the coaching. Yeah, I mean,
no, I get it.
James Franklin, like, he hasn't proven anything. And, like, until then, I am going to pick, I think, the quote-unquote better coach or the more better record coach with these big games. So that's why I'm picking Dan Lanning. But it's going to be close, and it's going to be a whiteout. So I think Oregon, this young team, like, we'll see, because they have a huge thing to prove. But, yeah.
I think you're spot on, though. I think that, the reasons why. You've got me over here reconsidering some things. But, no, Oregon beat Penn State, as you mentioned, in the Big Ten championship game last year. And in that game, Penn State rushed for 292 yards. Oregon did not stop that rushing attack. And they still won. Mm-hmm. Like, it didn't matter. Oregon was still able to get the win. You look at that game, Drew Aller, 20 for 39, 226 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 big interceptions. Mm-hmm. I think if Drew Aller protects the ball, Penn State can win this football game. If Drew Aller goes out, throws a couple interceptions, it's a toss-up, and I probably would lean Oregon. Yeah. Next big game on your list, what you got? Is it that?
Bama. We have Bama at UGA. Speaking of coaches, I know not to go against Kirby. And from my experience, it never really works out for me, except for maybe one time when we beat him in 2020. But Kirby Smart, I trust. And this is Bama's first time in Athens since 2015. It's been a really long time. And Bama hasn't lost to the Bulldogs in the regular season, I think, for a long time. So it's going to be very interesting, but I think for this game to be in Athens, I honestly, this game, I know that the Bulldogs are going to win. I have no doubt in my mind. I trust Kirby. I think the only thing that worries me is Georgia's, how are they going to defend, vertical attacks? Because when we saw the Tennessee game, Tennessee, they ran a high-powered offense, very efficient. UGA, they left a lot of explosive plays, and that resulted in a very high scoring game, and that they should have lost but managed to win, because once again you trust Kirby Smart to come out with the win. And I do trust the history in this one too, because I know that Georgia has not lost in Athens, I think, since 2019, so it's been a very long time since they've been caught in a loss at home. So I don't know. And I think this is a big game for Kalen DeBoer as well. This is the big game after losing FSU. They kind of played Wisconsin, but Wisconsin's not good. And so now it's kind of can you bounce back from that FSU loss? Are you going to build the Alabama brand back to where it was, or are you just not the guy for the job? Obviously coming after Nick Saban is a big ask, but I think this is a game for him to prove something as a coach, and for their players to prove something. They definitely saw the things on social media where everyone's it's over, the dynasty's over, no one's scared of Bama anymore. So we'll see, but what are your thoughts?
To shock nobody, not a single soul, I'm picking Georgia to win the game. But there's always going to be something that worries me about playing Alabama. If you're a Georgia Bulldog, you've been bit by the
2nd and 26.
Yeah, you really had to go there. No, I mean I think you're right. I mean look, you date it back to gosh, when was it? 2008, the infamous blackout game where Alabama pretty much came in and turned the lights out. They've won 9 of the last 10 meetings against Georgia, including 4-1 since 2020. Now that one was a national championship, but I won't go too far into that. I think it's going to be a great football game. 7:30. It'll be a really I think WRUF's carrying that game. So if you're looking to listen to it, if you're out and about, or you just want to hear some good SEC football, it worries me that it's Alabama. But at the same time, if you're looking at the schedule, to who's been tested and who's answered the test so far, it's been Georgia. Tennessee's the best team so far on their schedule. Yes, they were burnt over the top. Yes, they probably should not have won that game. Yes, they were down by 8 with like a minute left in the game. Then they let them get into field goal position and they still missed.
Yeah.
But it goes back to Kirby Smart. You're right. Everybody says, they shouldn't have won the Tennessee game. But the reality is you put yourself into position to win football games, eventually it happens. And I think that's what Georgia does more right now than anybody else in the country, is they just put themselves in position to win football games. And look, sometimes that doesn't work out. Sometimes you lose to Ole Miss. Sometimes you lose to Notre Dame. But you're putting yourself in the position so that when, you go again, even last year, they lost to Alabama on the road. Ryan Williams, with about a minute left, caught one of the most insane passes you'll ever see from Jalen Milroe. Right after Georgia had stormed back from down like 30. It really felt like the tides had turned. And then, yet again, Alabama figured out a way to win. But I think this is going to be a game that Georgia just turns it up a notch, because I think they recognize that there's very few games on the schedule where Kirby can go to his team and say, look at them, they're doubting you. They don't think they can. And I think that Georgia team responds better than anyone when told, they're doubting you. In fact, when they won the second national championship, there were players on that team, there were players on that field that after they said, I think the quote was, y'all told us we were going to go 7-5. Now, first of all, not a single person told anybody that team was going 7-5.
The underdog gimmick.
I know, look, they got on the field, said that they were going to go 7-5, and I'm sitting there going, how on earth did Kirby Smart make these men believe that anybody on this planet thought they were going 7-5?
Because, oh my goodness, like another thing that I think is very parallel to this is like when Bryce Young is like, I've always been doubted. But he's like a 5-star quarterback, #1 recruit. Like, I'm like, okay, like you go to Bama. So like, I remember that being like a talking point, and I saw the video and I was like, with Kirby Smart as your head coach, also you guys have like the top recruiting class every single year. No one is expecting you to go 7-5. But this game is going to be so interesting because also like Ty Simpson and Gunnar Stockton, like they're 2 quarterbacks that really weren't hyped up in the offseason. But we'll see what they do. And I think the big narrative is, can Kalen DeBoer win a road game? Like, can he win a big time road game? Because he hasn't done that yet. And Ryan Williams, again, that was his coming out game last year. He went crazy last year, but this year, I mean, he's like kind of dipped in production a little bit, and he's also had a concussion, I think, against FSU. So he just came back from that and played in the Wisconsin game, which I think he did really well. But once again, it's Wisconsin, so we don't really know. But this weekend there's a lot of signs going around, and yeah,
I think the home record for Georgia, winning like 30 some odd in a row, and then you've got Alabama. Their recent road losses, I mean, you look, Florida State this year, I think that was on the road. They lost to Oklahoma on the road back last November. If you count the bowl game, where they're technically at a neutral site, count that, they lost that too. You back it up a little bit, they lost to Vanderbilt on the road.
Yeah.
Kalen DeBoer has just struggled quite a bit as the road team, and I think, the last time he had a big road win, probably LSU last year. They blew the doors off of LSU. But really outside of that, I mean, It's hard to really point to anything
signature road win.
There's no signature road win, which if you're a Georgia fan, you should be scared because that means Kalen Moore is going to talk this up to his team all week long as, hey, we need a signature road win. This is your opportunity. This is where you silence the doubters.
Mm-hmm.
However, you got the guy on the other side that somehow makes his team believe that everybody doubts them all the time. So maybe Kirby can figure out a way to make them the
gaslighting.
Yeah, like he has gaslit everybody into believing that Georgia's being doubted. And I'm like, on no planet.
They're like 16th of the SEC. Like
what are we doing? Like, you just won a national championship. Come back and you win another one. And somehow every player on that field, for some reason, thought that the whole season they had been doubted. And not a single person was doubting it.
Not a single soul.
But we'll move on from the Georgia game. I think you've got one more game.
Continuing with storylines, we have Ole Miss LSU. This is going to be, honestly, a very, very interesting game. I had a hard time picking this game. It took me a while because they're both 4-0, and so one of these teams are going to get their first loss. But it's like so difficult because I think LSU, they've been hyping up LSU's defense for the past but then again, Clemson proven not to be great. Our offense isn't the best, so it's like, where are they getting the defense, from? I think it's a little bit overrated. But then with Ole Miss, they have a high-powered offense. This is led by Lane Kiffin, of course. But also they played very close games against Kentucky and Arkansas. So, and those two teams are not, the cream of the crop of the SEC. So it's a little bit questionable. But there's a lot of question marks to this game, so we'll see. But I think Ole Miss, they are starting Chambliss, which they announced, I think, yesterday. So Chambliss is going to be their QB1, and he transferred from Ferris State. So this is going to be a really huge game for him. And we'll see about the LSU defense. I don't trust it completely, but we'll see. I think that's – and then Nussmeier, is he 100%? I don't know. I think LSU's offense also has disappointed a little bit. So a lot of question marks about that. And I think LSU just needs to run the ball because Ole Miss, their run defense is not great. But I think we have to hit on the big talking point, which is Lane Kiffin's daughter, Landry. She hard launched her relationship with Whit Weeks earlier this week on her Instagram, and that has been the talk of the town, I think, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, every single platform. And Lane Kiffin went on Twitter, as he always does, and he said to take the over. So this is going to be at Ole Miss, 3:30 ABC game. I think Ole Miss is favored by maybe 1.5. It's going to be a crazy game. I don't know. They're both going to be really hype. What do you think?
Wow, Jordan. Who'd you pick?
I picked Ole Miss.
Okay.
This was really hard for me. I was leaning towards LSU, but I think during these games where it's so close, it's like a pick 'em. I'm always gonna lean towards the home team.
That's good. No, look, that's sound strategy. I'm actually gonna agree with you there. So
okay.
we agreed on 2 out of 3.
That's good.
We're doing well. Look, I think you hit on a lot of stuff there. I think you're spot on. LSU's win over Clemson no longer looks super impressive. It was 17-10 on the road. Yeah. I'll give you that. But it doesn't look quite as impressive when Syracuse and now Georgia Tech have both beaten them as well. And that Clemson offense looks pretty anemic right at this point. And then you start looking – they struggled against Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
Then they –
beat us.
Then they beat Florida, but even that Florida game, they 5 interception game, and they still only scored 20 points.
So yeah.
Look, they did go out and beat Southeast Louisiana 56-10. But now you go on the road to the Grove. It's going to be an interesting one. I will go, like I said, I'm going to Ole Miss because I think Ole Miss is the better team. LSU has so far been able to, if Florida had played an average game on offense, they lose that. LSU loses that game.
Yeah.
Just an average game. If DJ throws 2 interceptions versus 5, I think, and the 7 points that Jaden Ball scored.
Oh, right.
And then got called back.
Yeah.
I think there's that. Now, I will say, this Ole Miss defense hasn't looked super great this year. They gave up I think it was a 7-point game with Kentucky 30-23, 41-35 against an Arkansas team, which, look, Arkansas has a great offense. Taylor Green is a very talented quarterback. And then last week they kind of unloaded on Tulane 45-10, which I thought was actually going to be a little closer. I thought Tulane could maybe hang with them for a little bit because the defense had not shown up. So it is good news that Ole Miss's defense looked a little bit better last week. And I think it's smart to go ahead and name Chambliss the starter for this week. That way you know that going in, this is the person. They're going to get the starting reps there. And it gives Austin Simmons another week maybe to get healthy, or maybe it's one of those things where, if he beats a top 4 team, is Chambliss just going to be your starter for the rest of the year because you just ride the hot hand? And I think that's possible. They've got this. Ole Miss has got this one, then they'll have Washington State, and then they play Georgia on the road, which should be a really good one. And then they turn around and have to play Oklahoma on the road. So we're going to find out who Ole Miss is very quickly in the next 4 games. Whether they can, if they beat LSU, we may still not know just how good they are until they play Georgia and Oklahoma. Maybe John Mateer will be back for that. I know he had surgery yesterday. I just think, I think it'll be a close game. If I had to throw her somewhere in that 24 to 30, 30-24 game, 31-27, I think it'll be close. I just think I like Ole Miss just a little bit more. And I'm interested to see what Lane Kiffin is able to do.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Florida fans' eyes are on Lane Kiffin right now in case something occurs with Coach Billy Napier if they decide to part ways. I think Lane is probably at the top of a lot of wish list right now. And if you watched any of the documentary, the E60 on Lane Kiffin last night, or a couple nights ago, it's on demand, so I watched it last night, and it was really good.
He seems pretty happy there.
He does seem happy. I did think it was interesting when his daughter mentioned
made the presentation.
Made her presentation that she to keep him in Oxford. Now she's hard launched a relationship with an LSU player. So what are we doing there, Landry? So it'll be interesting. I am curious. What are your thoughts on this hard launch in the middle of that week? Who is playing mental games here? Like, I can't tell. Is Whit Weeks playing mental games with Lane Kiffin, or is Lane Kiffin and Landry, are they working together to throw LSU off their game?
I've been trying to think about that as well, because I feel like there's no way that she posted this without consulting her dad for some. I don't know. I just feel like that's something that she would ask Lane about, just because it is like LSU week. But I don't know, because I don't think Coach Kiffin cares about this relationship as much as people are making it. And I think that this motivates Whit Weeks more than Lane Kiffin, just because he wants to, like, maybe, impress Lane Kiffin. Like, maybe that's, like, the motivation here. Maybe. Because last year, in the OT game, when LSU and Ole Miss played, like, Whit Weeks had a great game. I think he had, like, 18 total tackles that whole entire game. So I think for Whit Weeks, like, this is more fuel for him, maybe. But Landry I think it's funny how she posted it during this week. I thought that was funny, and the first time that I saw it, I thought it was actually fake. So yeah, it's so funny. I think this just adds on to the narratives of this game, which makes it more fun. So we'll see, but I wonder who she's gonna be supporting. I think it's gonna be Ole Miss. Because she made a presentation to her dad while staying there, so she shouldn't show up in LSU gear, but I think she will definitely have, like, maybe a little button with Whit Weeks' number on it. But yeah, what do you think?
It's going to be interesting. I can't say which one. I mean, look, she's, this is obviously we've seen some crossover like this in the past. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm sure Lane will be looking to. I mean, look, if Lane is nothing else, he is the king of social media when it comes to college football coaches. I'm a big fan of Lane Kiffin. I think he's a funny guy. And I think if there's any coach that could handle their daughter hard launching a relationship with the opposing team's starting linebacker, it's probably Lane Kiffin. So I think it's probably some good-natured fun. I think it'll bring the best out of Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. That's why I'm picking them. Like I said, king of social media. I'm sure we'll get a lot of funny memes if Ole Miss wins. Yeah. I think we're going to get a lot of that. But Jordan, I really appreciate you coming on Sports Lab Overtime with me this week to end off a really great week. Next up, we've got Steve Russell on Sports Scene. Then you'll watch Sports Lab. And then we'll wrap you up with the tailgate before a great weekend of college football, Ryder Cup. Jordan, you really ran down the big matchups for the week. So I don't think I have to ask you what you're doing this weekend.
No.
I have a feeling it's college football.
Yeah, it is one of the greatest weekends, I think, of fall. Like, I think everyone's going to be glued to their couch, glued to their TV screen. So, yeah, definitely tune in. It's going to be a really jam-packed weekend.